This is from Jason and Corby. The owners at Leicester City have to take the brunt of the blame for our demise. They kept Brendan Rodgers for far too long, showing loyalty for the cup win when he'd long since lost his way and lost the players. It's the owners who need to take the blame. Is there any merit in that message, do you think, Simon?
They're all in it. You can't suggest that Brendan Rodgers, that's got a reputation of being able to manage football teams, should be excused from the position that he took of not running the team properly. You can't excuse the players that have sashayed around not realising the enormity of the problem they're creating for themselves. And you can't excuse the owners for not taking a scalpel to the situation earlier.
Yeah.
So all of those things should be factored into the equation. But let's not isolate it. Let's not say it's just owners. It is the lot of them. Everyone's responsible for that relegation in the same way that everyone was responsible for that FA Cup win and everyone was responsible for that Premier League win.
So is there now an inevitability sinking in about your situation? Are you looking at the Championship and only the Championship next season? Dave is a big Leicester fan. Dave, you were there last night. What do you think? Can't get much worse, can it?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we're going down without a shadow of doubt. I think the towel got through in when we played Bournemouth at home. My wife asked me last night, at half-time, what do you think Dean Smith is saying to the players now? And I said to her, well, what can you say to a bunch of players to try and motivate them that no, they won't be there next season, come what may?
Yeah, but they've a job to do though, Dave, haven't they? No matter what, they've got to make a fight of it right to the very end until it's now impossible that they can't stay up.
There's a bunch of international players playing for Leicester City, and they're just not doing it. They know that they're not going to be there next season, and they've thrown the towel in. Jim, this all started. We won the FA Cup 2 years ago yesterday. We got knocked out the following season by Nottingham Forest, who were then a championship side, and Brendan Rodgers publicly called certain individuals on the playing staff. The rot started then. We started this season 1 point from the first 7 games. The board should have shown some backbone then and sacked the manager. Dean Smith, John Terry, Craig Shakespeare were thrown into the fire. You know, they can't motivate these guys.
So it's all too little, too late, Dave. That's what you're saying. Too little, too late.
Definitely. There was a bit of a bounce before the World Cup, but then we had a couple of results, one against Tottenham, one against Villa. But, oh, dear. Oh, it's been shocking. We were there against Fulham. We were 2-0 down. We hadn't touched the ball.
Yeah, I can hear you, Dave, actually. I can hear the hurt in your voice. You're obviously a devoted fan.
We follow them home and away every game.
Yeah.
Myself and my wife. And it's, I don't know, it's awful. How the hell has this club got in this mess?
Yeah, were you one of those, Dave, who was chanting you're not fit to wear the shirt down at Craven Cottage?
At Fulham we were, yeah. I mean, one of the players, we went 3-0 down, and one of the players came over to the corner, waving his arms to G the fans up. Oh, my word, he took dog's abuse. What a stupid thing to do.
Dave, if you go down, you bounce straight back up.
Jim, I fear. I really do, I fear.
Dave, listen, thanks for the call. You're a passionate supporter. No doubt Chris is the same. Chris, good morning. Another Leicester fan. You're through to myself and Simon. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Simon.
Morning.
Morning. I didn't phone last night because I was sat in that stadium and I wasn't one of the ones chanting, you're not fit to wear the shirt, by the way. I'm a passionate supporter of this club, and I've tried to look a bit deeper. And I understand this. The guy called Rudkin there, who's the so-called director of football, and we've got Susan Whelan in, who came from King Power initially to run the business. And now, unfortunately, you've got young Top there, who's taken over from his father.
Yes.
And I just don't think he's experienced enough to be running a football club of this magnitude. And we're now seeing the gradual tail-off over the last 2 years, I would say. Since we won the FA Cup, it's been down since then, and we should have seen the writing on the wall, or they should have seen and done something about it. For me, one of the biggest mistakes, and nobody actually really knows why, was letting Kasper Schmeichel go. A leader in the dressing room, a leader on the pitch, and we haven't had that all season. And we desperately need it. I mean, watching from the stands last night, looking at the players' faces, they were because I've only 6 rows from the front, so I can see into the faces. They were like rabbits, frightened rabbits in the headlights. They didn't know what to do. I'm not saying they didn't try.
Sure.
I believe they did.
But you're already preparing for life, it seems, by the sounds of it, Chris, in the Championship. Chris, thanks for the call. John, you've been waiting patiently, another Leicester fan. It seems like the game's up, John, doesn't it?
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Simon. Thank you for having me on.
Good morning, John.
What it is, Jim, I've been supporting the team since 72. Before that, in the great days of Jimmy Bloomfield with Frank Worthington, Keith Weller, some great players, yeah?
Yeah.
They give 110%. Now, you've got a situation back in April of last year before we went back to pre-season. Brendan Rodgers, the easiest thing to do is blame Brendan. He was told he would have a kitty to spend. Come back June, July, he's coming on the TV, there isn't any players coming in, transfer window shutting. All of a sudden, it's Brendan's fault. I'm not saying he didn't lose the changing room, because he did. But at the end of the day, you've got players, Jim, on that pitch. At Maddison, the big I am, I've not seen that guy break sweat this season. You've got the Belgian crew who stay in the click. Tielemans, he's got no legs in midfield, and he wonders why any of the top 4 sides have not come in for him. We are relegated, Jim, at the end of the day. I'm very passionate about it. I got in last night. The first thing Jackie, my wife, said to me, she went, I know you've lost. You know, I take it really personally, and there's so much more I could say, Jim, because at the end of the day, Maddison, after the Fulham game, he comes over, strolling over to try and give his shirt to somebody. If I'd have caught it, I would have thrown it back at him, and I could say, go back to Coventry and learn how to play football. Yes, he is a good footballer. He'd go to Tottenham where they do all the pretty passing. But I guarantee you, and I'll bet any money now, the likes of Maddison and Tielemans, if they go to a top 4 strokes, top 6 side, after a dozen games, they'll be warming the bench, Jim.
John, here's Simon.
But John, I agree with you. I've been saying this for some time about the situation following the Nottingham Forest Cup game, where Brendan came afterwards and called out the motivation of the players. But the two things I can't find in my mind to excuse him from, if he calls that on and calls on the change, then he should either know he's capable of delivering it or go and deliver it. And if he can't deliver it, then rather than put out what he put out for this season, which was not good enough from him, he should have been prepared to say, right, well, this wasn't what I was told, this wasn't what I was sold, so on that basis, I'm no longer going to run this football team because I've called on a situation in January, because I need to change this dressing room, because players like Tielemans and other players are not really here anymore. They're here in body but not in spirit. I need to change it, but he didn't. He stood there and he stayed there, and he allowed it to get worse underneath him, and then he left the situation when he no longer fancied it anymore. So whilst I do think you're right, I think the ownership change in terms of the tragedy that passed...
Oh, unbelievable.
And I think the same thing happened at Blackburn Rovers. You know, obviously Jack was still in place when they got relegated in 1999 after winning the league in 1995, and they came back under Graeme Souness. But again, when Jack went and John Williams was running it, there's a change. Leicester going down is not the end of the story. They'll come back up again.
Well, they come straight back up, John, briefly.
What concerns me, Jim and Simon, is the fact that if we do go down, I've been there in League One with the team. If we do go down, Burnley were extremely lucky last year because you need luck in football. At the end of the day, there's going to be at least 6 outgoings at Leicester this coming pre-season, at least 6. That means, number 1, you get a new manager in. Number 2, you've got to mould them. We kick off on the Championship, correct me if I'm wrong, on the 3rd of August. Okay. So you've got to mold these players, and you've got to hit the ground running. Now, I just want to say one thing about Top, the chairman. They're fabulous owners, but at the end of the day, he took his fingers off the pulse when his dad died so tragically. At the end of the day, he's too busy playing polo and buying racehorses. If he's not going to concentrate on the actual team and fund the team. I know he's got a duty-free and they lost money. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, Leicester City is a fabulous club, Jim.
It is indeed. Club. Of course, John, and you're great supporters, and you're one of them. John, thanks very much indeed. I'm sure Top, the man at the top of the club, would dispute that fact, the point that John made at the end of the call there. Anyway, Leicester, if they are going down, will they come straight back up?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.